Hello and welcome back to a Friday installment of Poke Fodder. It is the weekend. We are charging hard into this weekend. We're going to make it a great weekend. How about that? It is 2018. We are approaching the 1-year anniversary of the English-speaking release, is how Pokemon Duel wants to phrase that. But it's the 1-year global release is how I'm going to phrase it. And what I wanted to do today is, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to go back to the most unique way to win in Pokemon Duel. And what I want to do is take the game that I played and then go over how it was broken down to me. X-After reached out to me on Discord and did a breakdown of my game. And so I found it very insightful. There's some things on there that I already knew. I keep way too many Pokemon back at my goal. I am not nearly aggressive enough. I don't force the action nearly enough. But there are other things that he did, like point out when maybe I had a better option. And on top of that, what he did is said, okay, well, if you had done this instead, then your opponent would have had to react this way. I thought it was super insightful, and I think that it can really help you take your game to the next level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up this next game, the game that I had already played, and then I'm going to load up my Discord. And it's not a complete game play-by-play, but I will replay the game for you guys, and you guys have already seen this. But then I'm going to stop it and start it and go back and forth with his recommendations. I'm really excited to do this for you. I think that this could be very helpful for everybody as a player. And so give me just 1 second to load this up. Okay, so starting off, this is, I'm on the far side of the field, as you can tell. But this is the deck that I was running. I was going against Pinzacon. So what X-After, who is free to play, I talked to Stay at Home Dad just briefly, and he said that X-After is arguably the best player in X. So I take it with some credibility here. You know, reaching 4K. Just if you've reached 4K, I give you some chops on what you have to say, and more importantly, the way that this was broken down was done such that I feel like X-After knows the game really well. Oh, here's what he's going to... Turn 1, your opponent opens Mimikyu to the left side entry. That's correct. You meet with Solgaleo, but you could play Koko 1 off your entry to the opposite lane and get free entry on the following turn. So here we go. My opponent opens with Koko, and just like he said, there's my Leo. Now, what he said is if I would have taken my Koko to the opposite outside lane, so I'm thinking that means right here, which would free me up to move all the way down here on the next turn. Now he goes on to say playing Inkay up sets up your Koko trap, but it also lets your opponent pick his matchups, which is true. Now, if you will recall, in my video when I did this, I said I threw Inkay out because my whole goal is to get Inkay KO'd. I don't care about Inkay. I actually want Malamar out on the field. So in that situation, yes, I let him set up the matchup for that, but I don't care because I want Inkay knocked out. I think if I look a little bit deeper into that though, the problem is I continue to let him pick all the matchups the rest of the way instead of playing on the back and then making him force the issue a little bit and then I reset the matchups. I think that's where the problem comes in. And then he goes on to say, you lose your lead matchups, Solgaleo and Lunala, and Decidueye versus Inkay. So let's go ahead and run this. Decidueye is fine. And I'm going to stop this for just 1 second, wherever I can. Okay. I actually don't even set up the Coco trap the way that, you know, this, back in the day it was called the Shuppet trap, now it's called the Coco trap. But I do that not to set up jumping over, because as you saw in yesterday's video, I don't even use it. Yesterday, my opponent had Flare on that came up and attacked, and I didn't use the Coco trap. I mostly put Coco there, A, as a placeholder, B, as a turn waster, and C, just for the mobility. That's kind of the only reason. If my opponent does happen to come down and attack and I'm thinking about it, I will take the free surround. But I actually don't set that up as a strategy, where I know a lot of people use that as a strategy and then they play off of the trap constantly. That's not really why I have that set up. So moving on here, playing Sableye to the corner is a great play, and you see that there. It lets me force the action from Lunala, or he gets a crippled, and in your case, a KO'd Lunala. So I believe, if I remember correctly, we will play this back. He brings down Mew. I think I hop over, and we want to stop after this. And I think he rolls a miss. And I take my double chance, and I'm pretty sure I knock out the gold here. So we knock out his Lunala. So now, you could easily take the entry at this point in the game and hop over with Sableye or Swap Spot with Coco, because I am running Swap Spot. So apparently I don't take the entry point. He brings out his Oh, and then I move Lunala up the outside. And I remember, I even said it in my video, that what I was doing is I was going to rush the outside lane. Now, what X After is saying that I should do is force the issue here. I have a great opportunity to apply pressure to his side of the board. And remember this, I'm going to refer to this later, but I rarely even make it over to his end of the board. And that's a big deal, because if you don't go over to your opponent's half of the board, if you're playing constantly on your half of the board, it's really hard to win, since the object of the game is to either capture their goal or close off their entry points so that they can't make a move. And that's really hard to do when all your figures are on your side of the board. So like X After is saying, what I could have done is taken Sableye here and dropped him on this entry point. Or I could have done a Swap Spot here and put Coco down on that entry point. But you keep them away, I assume because you're afraid of knockouts on either one of them. Swap Spot Coco threatens the game, so he should cover goal with Mimikyu. Okay? So if I do Swap Spot with Inkay, I slide over here, jump down to this entry point. Now, he has no options. I don't know if I can't remember. Oh, okay, wait, I can look. Okay, so he has Goal Block. So if I put my Coco here, his only options are to slide Mimikyu over, or he can Goal Block. Now, he's not going to Goal Block with Mew, obviously. And I don't know, maybe Decidueye, maybe Ho-Oh. I'm not sure what he would have done, but it makes sense. If you can, I can't remember his name, but Suede. I can't. It's been so long since he retired. But Savage Swede. Savage Swede used to tell me you have to put your opponent on a clock. And what he meant by that is you have to put yourself in a position where your opponent has to worry about their goal. Right now, my opponent does not have to worry about his goal at all. If I put Coco over here in this corner, he's on a clock of 1, which means if he doesn't do something, he loses. I hope that makes sense to you. So what X After is saying is, if I put Coco here, now I'm threatening goal. If I Swap Spot Coco, it threatens the game. He should cover goal with the Mimikyu, and then you can cover his other entry with Sableye. So from this point, let's see what my next plays are. So he goes down to there, and then I back up and cover goal. Look at what a huge change between what I did and what X After said I should have done. If I would have followed what X After said, I would have gone Coco to this corner. He would have taken Mimikyu over. I would have taken Sableye to there. So at this point right here on turn 286 in this game, instead of him having both entry points open and a Mew within striking distance of my goal, I would have had both of his entry points capped and forced him to try to open those back up. Now, it is entirely possible that he could have taken Decidueye and attacked my Coco and knocked him out on one turn, but that's not the point. The point is, I would be putting a ton of offensive pressure on my opponent, and my opponent would have to be playing defensively instead of moving his Mew forward to threaten game. He would not have even had that option. Like right there, that sets the entire tempo and the entire, like, I can't even think of the words, but that sets the precedent for how this game is going to go right there. And we're at turn 286, so that's 14 plays in, and I could have already, and I'm in a complete opposite position on this game than I would have been had I followed what X After says. I hope all that is making sense, and I hope you guys see that, and I hope that you guys can start saying, like, to me that was an aha moment. So I hope that when you guys are playing, you can look at things and say, oh, wow, like the light bulb switches on. Let's see. Swap spot, but cover goal with Mimikyu. Then goal block with Leo versus Mew, or simply cover goal with Inkay. So what he's saying is with me covering both those, if he decides to put offensive pressure on, I have my goal block. I can just I can goal block with Leo, or if he doesn't have Mew right there and I have a couple turns, I can backtrack with my Inkay and cover goal. Instead, Gengar gets on the board and you get 2 more Mons on the board. So he puts his Gengar on the board, but then I also get my Rayquaza on the board. He comes and attacks with Decidueye, and then I get Hide. I move up. I think I attack. Yeah. So I attacked, and he gets the fortunate dodge. Moving on. Well, I thought I hit stop. Maybe not. Stop. Okay. So then he says, Fortunate Spin versus Decidueye, and Unfortunate Spin versus Gengar. Can't expect a high-level player to make the Decidueye into Solgaleo attack, but you didn't realize the possibility. He was looking for what I assume would be gold into Solgaleo, looking to take out Sableye on the after effect, or 130 to beat Leo or Grassnot to beat 120. So it was a lot better shot at winning a roll than it looks. Hop over Lunala is a great move. Low risk, high reward. No need to talk about the max revive mistake. You knew what you messed up. Leo was the best choice to attack the Decidueye there, so good choice. So let me catch the game up. I hop over, attack back, low risk, high reward, and I believe we will try to stop this right here. And there was the mistake, because I had the wait 4. God, that was such a terrible, terrible play. And sadly, that wasn't even the worst play that I had made in this game. So here we are. When he plays Mega Gengar to the corner, you should have advanced towards the goal with Lunala. Here is something that I've kind of always known, but never really put into words. Throughout the game, let's see, I'm going to jump forward. Throughout the game, you failed to threaten offensively, and while he could just cover your goal with Mimikyu, you would effectively waste a turn of his Mega Gengar, which is very important. The Megas only last 7 turns. The more you can stall or waste, or not allow them to force the tempo with their Megas, no matter which Mega it is, pick any of them, they only get the 7 turns. And if you can divert the attention away and force them to make plays other than attacking, or as X After says, go on a rampage with their Megas, that is a win. So let's continue up here and try to catch up with... Oh, this is the only choice I had was to attack here with Leo. Especially because Grass Knot was burned out. He's going to take his Gengar. And then he attacks, and then I want to stop this at my next possibility. As soon as I saw the playback, I saw a major misplay right here as well. I don't know if my opponent didn't see it, but X After goes ahead and comments, when your opponent has a Mega, force them to play with their other figures so they can't go on a rampage. On a side note, he could have surrounded Leo with Mew to stop your surround attempt. If he attacked Coco and got gold versus gold, he would have won the game. If you hit white, he has an open lane to attack with Gengar the next turn. What he's trying to say is, when I was commentating this game, what I said is, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to threaten the surround of Mega Gengar. Now, what X After pointed out that was blatantly obvious when I'm watching the playback is my opponent could have taken his Mew back here, surrounded my Leo, knocked him out, and then if he attacks and happens to knock out my Coco, which is not a great possibility, but the 31 into the 30 is, it's not unfathomable that could happen. That's game over. Great point. It never even crossed my mind. I never even saw that. And then just sliding over here, even if I knock him out, then Gengar has a wide open lane to come attack my Coco, because I would not be able to, like right now, he can't come over here without getting surrounded if he doesn't win the roll. Whereas if Leo is gone, then that option isn't available. That's what all that means. After your Leo took out the Ho-Oh, so let's catch up. He hops over. I get a super fortunate roll there. And we will catch everything back up. Let's get Leo to taking on the Ho-Oh. Oh, I want to stop because I'm pretty sure that he makes a comment here. Well, it's a good place to stop. Hopefully it does stop. I don't know why sometimes it lets 6 or 7 plays go by, and other times it stops it right away. Okay. After your Leo took out Ho-Oh, you attacked into Lunala with Rayquaza. I think it was actually... No, that was right. While the gold 140 is tempting, it's actually a lot smaller segment of the wheel than you'd think. Considering you still had Swap Spot left, you could have swapped your Lunala with Rayquaza and made a couple of different plays that were more optimal. Okay, so let's go back one turn. He's saying I could have taken my Rayquaza, dropped it here on the corner, and then my Lunala would have been there, and I've got him beat on chain levels for Lunala. If you're feeling lucky, which from what I've seen tends to be never, very funny. I can't say that I disagree, I just think it's really funny. You could hope for Moongeist versus Mimikyu, but you risk getting cursed and getting banished. So the better play would be to hop over his Lunala, landing one away from his entry, and whether or not you decide to attack Lunala would be up to you. That's a great point. Look at this. Yes, I have the 143 that I could jump into there, but I can't fly over Lunala, and my 64 loses to everything in Lunala's wheel. So he's right. The much better play would have been to swap spot, and then my two options would have been with Lunala right here where Rayquaza is. I could have hopped to this point and attacked Mimikyu. Definitely an option. Now, the problem with that is if I get cursed, I leave myself open to getting banished because I'm not in a great position and he has it set up for a surround. The other thing that I could have done is with Lunala right here with Rayquaza, I could have hopped over here and then either attacked or not attacked, depending on how you feel. Can you guys, now that I'm explaining this to you, that thought never even crossed my mind when I was playing. Like it never, it never did. But now that I'm pointing this out to you, do you see how a play like this can benefit your game? Because that's a huge difference between my Rayquaza, which is going to get knocked out, and me just having Lunala here on the corner not really threatening anything, and having Rayquaza on this corner, and my Lunala in a very powerful position. So even after the early on misplays, and there were numerous of them, right here I could have made a play to put myself in a powerful position, and I don't. You risk him getting Moongeist Beam, but knocking him out would have given you a clear board. Putting your Lunala one off his entry ensures he can only get one Pokemon out before you close the gate. If he takes... I can't keep up, hold on. If he takes out Decidueye and gets a lucky roll versus your Rayquaza, so be it, but that won't happen every time. Now what he's saying is because of Decidueye's ability to respin purples on entry points, that would have been a possibility, but it's a risk worth taking. That would have put you in a great spot to cap both entries and start moving Mons up the field. The attack into the Lunala with Malamar doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, let's catch up. We're gonna redo this, and then I'm gonna attack with Rayquaza, roll 64 into 62, which I couldn't have won that anyways. The only thing I could have rolled was gold. So he brings out his Decidueye. I move Malamar up. And then I think I want to stop this. So he gets Moongeist, I get Kabloud. Okay. Not in your favor, and even if you get the purple, he can wake up Lunala immediately, and you'll have to wake up your own Lunala as well. He's right. Even if I sleep his Malmar, all he has to do is pull his Gengar out and wake him up, and then I've got to waste a turn waking up my own Lunala. So, terrible play by me. Leo on top of your entry point instead of 1 out is the better play. Oh, hold on. Playing Leo on top of your entry point. Alright, so we're going to have to forward this just a little bit. Obviously I'm going to get something knocked out. There he goes. I believe he moves. I move Sableye over. I Golbot. Oh, with Lunala, okay. Alright. Cool, it stopped on time. Play Leo on your entry point instead of 1 out is the better play. Great choice there. Most people would extend their Leo, but leaving it on entry prevents potential flyover attack from Lunala and also gives you the ability to block if he KOs your Sableye. And then you play super defensive and he gets KO on your Lunala after the switch. So does that make sense? If I bring Leo out to here, then he can take his Lunala over to my entry point and attack either Rayquaza or my Leo and knock them out. And then he has both of my entry points capped. By doing it this way, he's not going to hop over and attack my Sableye. He can't hop over and attack my Leo. And he's probably not going to attack into Rayquaza is my guess. And then he goes on, then X After goes on to say, at this point, you're thinking, how do I not lose, instead of how do I take out some of these threats before they squeeze me into a corner, which results in you having to play from behind again, and then I make an incredible save with Rayquaza. That's 100% correct. So here's what's going to happen. He does the switch. I move Rayquaza over, and I did that to prevent Mew from slingshotting around. He gets the good roll of Moongeist Beam into me. I have to cover my goal. Goodbye to you. My Leo is going to come over here. We're both going to get knocked out. And then I want to stop. Just like a 1 in 100 roll here to save the game, which could have easily lost. Once you get out of that, you go back to playing super defensive and let him take your entries again. Your Rayquaza on his side of the board is only your 4th Mon in 80 turns to reach a point past the midway mark. That goes back to what I was saying, and we'll go ahead and run this through a little bit. That goes back to what I was saying. In 80 turns, I get across midpoint 4 times. That is not a recipe for winning. And when I say, I don't know why I can't win right now, well, it's because I'm never on my opponent's side of the board. And we will go ahead and bring this to a stop if at all possible. Okay. This is also the first time you threaten his goal. As you can see, your defensive positioning didn't help very much when he goes straight after Koko with his Decidueye. Anything other than Grass Knot puts you in a bad spot again, which was a very fortunate roll. So what he's talking about is Decidueye. Boom. Very, very fortunate roll there. And that would have put me in a really bad spot because this is the one time I'm threatening goal. Hopefully it stops here. Okay. So had Koko got knocked out, then he's got Decidueye here. I've got Malmar there, which can't do a whole lot. And basically he's going to close off my entry points. Is what's going to happen here if he doesn't roll Grass Knot. Or if he rolls Grass Knot and I don't roll my, what is that? My Wild Charge. It's very fair. Like, I got 2 amazingly lucky rolls to keep me from essentially losing this game at this point. A couple of good rolls with Rayquaza, and then he gets beat. You finally make an aggressive play offensively with Sableye, and it pays off. It forced him to play backwards with Mimikyu and gave you some time to get Rayquaza out. So I think we're going to have to let this run for a little bit here. Rayquaza got 2 really nice gold. And I believe he gold blocks with Gengar, which I knock out. And then we're going to have to let this roll a little bit because he forwards all the way to getting Gengar back out on the field, and Gengar's still on the field, so I think we lose there. Okay. Let's skip through the animation. That was terrible. My Sableye gets a great roll right there. Get the nice burn. Oh yeah, and then that's where I just wanted to status his Lunala. I sacrificed my Sableye there. Alright, I think we're caught up. You could have attacked his Decidueye with Leo when he tried to advance it. It's almost guaranteed knockout and would have given you more time to get Rayquaza out. Going back to super defensive again, play leaving you no real shot at the goal. Great play stopping the surround with Sableye and missed a chance to swap spot again. You could have put Sableye right next to his goal and forced him to defend with Lunala. So he's saying that I could have gone over and attacked right there with Leo. I probably would have knocked out Decidueye before Decidueye even made it to that part of the field. And I still would have been able to get my Rayquaza back out on the board. So we gotta get going a little bit here with Sableye. Sableye's not even on the board yet. Okay. Okay. So instead of no, I didn't attack there. Missed a swap spot again to put Sableye up against Lunala and Soul on his entry when he gave you it with Gengar. This leaves you attacking Gengar with Sableye instead of Leo, which I assume you'd prefer. He makes a weird play with Mimikyu and then sacrifices it to a surround. So what he's saying is in this whole series of actions is when I had the opportunity, I could have done my swap spot with Leo and Sableye and put Sableye where his Lunala now is, and that would have threatened goal. It would have put him on the clock, is what we're saying. When he put Mew on the board, Coco prevented it from threatening versus my heavy purple back line. And it kind of, this is kind of basically where, like, he's kind of, X After's kind of already said everything. Letting it attack your goal for the entry was probably a misplay, but you managed to survive twice. He then tries to bait you up, but you stayed back. Great play there. He dances around a bit, but then plays in the midfield, and you could have blocked his path to goal with Sableye, but you just danced at goal, and he eventually forfeited due to time. So I'm going to let this play out. You can kind of see what it is he's talking about. He's going to bring out Mew in a bit. There was this round to get rid of my Lunala. He brings out Mew. I think I end up with Sableye and either Malamar or Lunala on my back line versus Mew. And it just kind of becomes a stalemate at that point. But I hope you guys can see this. It has to make sense. I don't know if I explained it absolutely the best way possible, but it's definitely worth looking at your own games and using the feature where you can now go back and rewatch matches and see, analyze, and break down your game as to how could I have done this better. Yeah. So see, he was baiting me to go chase him, which I didn't do, and then we just kind of bounce around, and I think he loses on time because I stalled him out. Now, I think my opponent should have attacked somewhere in here. And I mentioned this during the game. He was a heavy favorite against both of these figures with his Mew. I didn't realize he kept doing the same play over and over. But because I had the positioning, it wasn't on me to make a move to win. It's on him to try to win the game, is my feeling on that. And there was no reason for me to give up positioning for him. I hope that makes sense. I was in the lead on time. I had the positioning. The onus became on him to try to win the game and not on me to try to lose the game, if that makes sense. So I hope you guys liked this breakdown. I totally appreciate it, X After. It was a great breakdown, and I enjoyed seeing just at one point during that game, I mentioned in my video that I didn't feel like I'd made any bad plays or misplays. And then watching you just absolutely destroy my gameplay is very eye-opening, where here I am thinking, wow, what am I doing wrong? And then he's like, well, at 14 plays in, you could have had him on lockdown and been in a much better position. Like, oh, but as is, 14 plays in, I was retreating everything I had back to cover my own goal. Like I said, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I appreciate the breakdown. I hope you guys find this video useful and helpful, kind of something a little bit different as far as breaking down and analyzing gameplay that, you know, I would do more of this because I think this is great. But as you see, I can't even see a lot of these plays when I'm playing, and I don't think I would be doing justice if I was breaking down a bunch of plays on videos when there are other people who would do it much better. Anyway, that is going to wrap up today's installment. Nice long one, something different. We're headed into the long weekend. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, And until next time.